Hey everybody, gather round. HOS4A2's back in town. Talking horror, guts, blood, and gore. We know you're gonna scream for more. The podcast for the recently deceased. Monsters, mayhem, fear unleashed. It's podcast for the recently deceased. We are slashers, vamps, and goats at Beast. Silver screens and cursed tapes, jump scares that will contemplate, special guests and spooky lore. Turn up the volume and lock your door. The podcast for the recently deceased. Horror nerds on your souls, we feast. It's podcast for the recently deceased. So grab your steak and call a priest.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast for the recently deceased. I'm the boss, HOS4A2, and with me is Stephen Anthony from Dark Claw Studios.
Hey guys.
How are we feeling tonight?
We are feeling somber and serious. We were not joking around in an immature fashion before this podcast started whatsoever.
We absolutely were not. Patreon subscribers who get the BTS clips do not rat us out. To the non-subscribers.
Yeah, don't put that stuff out. That's just for you guys. Do not put that. Do not splash that all over the internet, guys.
All right, tonight we're going to be discussing Control Freak, the Hulu exclusive, written and directed by Shal Ngo.
Very well done.
Thank you. Starring Kelly Marie Tran, Miles Robbins, and Q Chin. A motivational speaker is tormented by an unrelenting itch on the back of her head. And that has to be the worst description of a film on IMDb.
One of the worst?
I'd like to fire that person and take
I'd like to fucking beat him in the dick. Like, what were you thinking?
Hey,
just
IMDb.
Stupid.
If you are hiring copywriters, there's two of them hosting this show right now who would love to. We'd love to be salaried for IMDb.com. That would be great. Just shoot us an email, and we'll write much better plot synopsis.
BasementMedia.Online, because if you send it to darklawstudios.com, I will be too offended to read it. Because believe it or not, you can chew gum and walk at the same time. You can write a blurb that is appealing to the masses while not being so reductive and inept.
And also, what's very important about plot synopsis is not spoiling any of the feature.
Which we did not do.
We would not do. And, this guy didn't do, but he also wrote one sentence.
So I did send you a message before we got started, just finding out where you were. I thought you watched it already. I didn't know you were watching it today. And my message to you was, holy shit. Your message back was, no spoilers. And my message was, well, I said what I said, and I'm going to say it again. Holy shit. I enjoyed this movie way more than I thought, because I went in with a prejudice, because I was not looking forward to it because of that horrible description. And I enjoyed it way more, probably enjoyment levels up there with The Monkey that we reviewed, and the Profound level, probably the greatest impact so far in terms of social commentary and what the message of the movie was.
Yeah, I don't want to get too into it before the scores, but I had a very similar experience. Control Freak was a very good movie. I would say it was layered, heavily layered, and every 5-10 minutes was another layer, and as you're going deeper and deeper into the psyche of our main character, magnificently portrayed by Kelly Marie Tran,
phenomenal performance,
which we will definitely get into later.
So let me ask you a quick question on that, Nate. Am I getting lucky with the movies that we're reviewing? Because so far, the 5 that we've done, we've seen Ray Nicholson, John Lithgow, Jeffrey Rush, Kelly Marie Tran, Theo James, all giving phenomenal performances are horror movies the vehicle for good actors to get in and show what they can do?
So a lot of new actors are going to hit the horror genre first because they get paid less and horror movie budgets are low. Um, for the last 4 to 5 years, if you check out the metrics, horror as a genre is one of the few growth genres besides superhero movies coming out of Hollywood right now. So Hollywood is making more horror than they ever have before, and also indie has always made some of the best horror, but now they're churning out horror more and more and more and more as it's being consumed more and more by the masses. I think what we're in right now is a horror bubble, so to speak, where
A golden age.
yeah, exactly. Where I'll tell you, 2022 and 2023, I think it was like pure gold for the genre. 2024, took a step back, but there were still a handful of great films. 2025 so far has been a banger. So I think that is how I would answer your question.
Well, for a horror writer that never watched a horror movie before, I am just on a really good tear. Now, I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't end.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah,
just really, really great movies so far, including this one.
yeah. I mean, I think out of Hollywood you'll see some forced stuff, some cash-ins. But as far as the indie stuff is concerned, I think everything that we watch is probably going to be a banger this year. All right, so you're peeling back layers. You're delving into the psyche of our main character. Magnificent performance. Really excellent turn because you can really go two ways with it. And once again, I'll save that for later. I really, really liked this movie. I liked where it ended up. I definitely did not expect to go there. I was very, very surprised. My expectations were absolutely subverted. This is what you want from a movie. This is a movie where if you saw the trailer, you would have a ton of predispositions about it, and they would all be subverted by the end because I did not expect any of this, and was really glad that it was delivered the way that it was. I have to give Control Freak a 7 out of 10.
I knew you were going to give it a 7, and I knew it. I knew it. And I was going to give it a 7. I said, you know what? I've been way too generous. I've been doling out 8s like it's my job. And then the movie just resonated with me on a personal level, and it went from a 7 to an 8. Not because of enjoyment. I probably won't watch it again. But I think everybody's going to be able, and I do mean everybody, especially in this country, and I'll get into that in a second. I think everybody's going to be able to relate to what she is going through on some level or another. And it definitely resonated with me, and it was very, very powerful. And they chose a vehicle, something like an itch, only because it's so slow, so patient, and so persistent. But they did it so beautifully so that at the end, I have to give it an 8.
All right. I mean, I'm not here to argue with you.
Well, you would lose.
All right. First, let's talk about the elephant in the room, just to get it out of the way. Okay. Kelly Marie Tran was done so dirty by Rian Johnson in Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I mean, Rose Tico was such a throwaway character. She could have done so much with her if they even had to put her in. If they had to make her a character, they could have done so much more. And she got so much shit from from the Star Wars. I'm going to call them fanboys and not actual fans because,
right?
Fans are like, okay, fine. It was bad. It's not for me. I'm not going to watch it again. Fanboys go on the internet and yell at the actresses until they delete their Twitters and call them all sorts of racist slurs. And those people they're just not people. They don't deserve the art. They don't deserve Kelly Marie Tran's performance. They don't
Mhm.
deserve. They don't deserve anything from Star Wars or Rian Johnson. Even if I didn't like it.
That was a no. It was a dark moment in where entertainment and cinema and this genre or this thing called movies that we all love, and the internet converged. And just because somebody makes a bad performance or a bad choice or a bad directing choice, what I would say, and I said it to you before we got started, is uh, it made me hate Rian Johnson more because I simply had no idea how phenomenal a talent Kelly Marie Tran is. So that when I'm watching it in the beginning, and I resisted the urge to IMDb, who was the actress in the movie, I was like, is that Rose from Star Wars? And because it just wasn't her, it was
Right.
like you said, so layered and such an excellent
Oh,
performance.
it was so good.
Um, so before where I wanted to punch Rian Johnson in the dick, now I want to do it with both hands. You just
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it kind of made the Rose debacle a little worse when you find out how amazing Kelly is. Um, but also, like, I never
Mhm.
blamed Kelly for Rose. I always blamed the writer and the director for that character because it was definitely never her fault.
Well, let me ask you a question, and from an empowered perspective, Haas, is did going through that and having that Rebecca Black, sensation of internet hate and so on and so forth, did that make Kelly Marie Tran, a better person for having gone through that gauntlet, where she comes out the other side a much stronger person that is capable of delivering this performance that she gave in Control Freak?
I would like to answer that in kind of two ways. One, probably. I mean, obviously, I don't know her life. I don't know her. I know that she went through some shit. Deleting her
Mhm.
her Twitter or whatever at the time. Um, but it's interesting her character in this film's life, in that she is a motivational speaker with this past, and she all these tools that she teaches her people that come and listen to her speak and read her books. Um, you know, she very well could have almost been this character at one point in her life, like trying
Mhm.
to build good habits, mentally, self-talk, all this stuff to get over this very dark period in her life where she was tormented by the not fans of Star Wars.
Sure.
So I would that's what I would say.
Well, I hope that she has her Twitter and her Instagram and her socials back up because she deserves all the accolades that she is rightfully going to receive for doing
Oh,
this movie.
she is getting tagged in this review, whether she watches it or not.
Kelly, we loved you.
Yeah, you were
Thank you for
amazing.
doing
Yeah,
this.
thank you.
Fucking
Yes,
amazing.
you were incredible, and you were great in Star Wars. I'm sorry the writing and your character was bad, but
So,
as an actress, everything was fine.
because of my, penchant to nitpick, I did notice a couple scenes in this movie once I realized it was her, where the color choice of that orange, mustard, yellow that she wore as a mechanic in Star Wars was almost obnoxiously used in this movie. So that if we were going to watch it together and have a live reaction, I would just be able to say, "There's the mustard yellow. There's the mustard yellow. There's the mustard yellow." Other than that, the only and maybe they did it on purpose. Val, or is it? I think her grandmother calls her Vi.
Is it Valerie?
Right? Is that
Yeah,
that's the character's name?
Valerie and Vi is the nickname.
Valerie knows how to use power tools. She can go into your garage and build you like a bench and some chairs
That's
out of like
true.
an old wooden spool.
That
She could
that
do that kind of
contraption
cool
she
shit.
bought was incredible, or she built was incredible.
And so yeah, that is sexy as fuck when a woman knows how to use power tools. And the first time she does it is neat. The second time, not so much.
I thought that was awesome too. But anyway, we'll get to that when we get to that.
So
Um,
spoilers ahead. If you haven't watched the movie, go ahead and do so now. Everything from this point forward we're giving away some details.
Absolutely. The ratings are done. The discussion begins. So we start off. We have, we got to get introduced to her life, right? So we see her do one of her sessions where she's speaking to the audience. We see her making some quick, just because the director didn't want to spend time on the sex scene, we've got a quick love scene and a little aftermath where they talk.
The love scene is important because it sets up the fact that Robbie wants a child.
Right, and then we see her take a pill, but we don't really know what it is.
I had no idea what it was at that time.
The next time she takes the pill, we see that it's an empty birth control set, and then she puts it at the bottom of the garbage with the garbage on top, which I thought was something only men ever did. And it was so interesting to see in a movie, because I don't think I've ever seen that done in a movie before either. But you know that it's something that happens in life where you're like, I have this garbage, and I really don't want my wife to see it. So I'm going to pick up the garbage, and I'm going to put it underneath. And it was so interesting to see her hide the birth control garbage that way.
I think it's anybody who has a compulsive habit that they know. Val is a liar.
Right.
She's a habitual liar due to what's haunting her throughout this movie.
Yes.
And so, when she puts that on the bottom, I think that's something that liars do.
Sure.
So I think, I'm sorry, the director and writer's name, Nate, I know you know it better than I do.
It was Salo. No.
They either went through something like this, or they know somebody, or they're the child of somebody. Just like Val is in the movie, she's the child of an addict.
Right.
But Control Freak speaks to her OCD, her obsessive compulsive disorder, for which addiction is a form of.
Yes. This movie is very, very much rooted in addiction and mental illness. And what I love about it is that you don't really know if she's just crazy or if the demon is real until a certain point towards the end, which
I was trying to figure that out the entire
film. And that's one of the turns that I really enjoyed was the moment, and we might as well give it away now, that it is an actual demon and not a metaphor. When that is revealed, I was like, whoa, because I was so...
Yeah, when Robbie sees it. Robbie sees it in the pool, right?
Yeah,
that's what you're talking about?
Yeah. I was so sure that it was
a metaphor. It was one of those things,
It was going to be like her demons haunting her and her family.
Right.
Her mom's depression, her father's addiction.
Sure.
Passed down to her, and she's got this one personality disorder, and...
Right. So everything that we're seeing in the movie is like an anthropomorphization of those demons up until that moment in the pool when an outside source sees it, when her husband Robbie
yeah. So we get this night, with this nice intro, introduced to these characters, and her friend works for her, and her husband works for her. He's kind of like the director, and she's more like her PA. And she's got a lot of stuff going on. She's a busy lady.
She has used this situation that she's in to her advantage. I won't get totally into the social commentary aspect of it. How addiction, when you're addicted to working and when you're addicted to succeeding or making money or whatever, we live in the environment where they will use that right up. So she has accumulated a very nice amount of success, wealth, affluence. But the movie gives a couple nods and hints that she is not this guru, or she's not what at least Tony Robbins shows us that he is, where he's like this easygoing guy.
Right.
No, she is selling a product, and she is meticulous about it, and she has that control freak thing. There was one scene where she just made an absolute mess, and then she cleaned it up after. There's blood or gray matter or some shit, and some of it got on the table, and she just wipes it up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, that is so great. That's this.
Yeah, I love that. So the itching starts right away, and
you can hear it.
It starts off a little subtle, except for the audio. and then you do get to see it more and more, and then she's like, you can assume that she's like scratching scabs eventually, and you get like blood running down her neck and
Which
blood on
they
her.
never showed her scratching the scab. So we
Right.
get the constant, and at one point she's scratching a nail file, and it's almost a disappointment. It's like, oh wait, you're not scratching your fucking skull off. But we get the 1 and the 2, and then later on in the movie straight to the 8 and the 9
Right.
of the scratching.
Yeah, yeah. The scratching reveal was great. All right.
Great. I screamed out loud.
It was so good.
I have the window open because it's a beautiful day here in upstate New York.
It was
I
so
screamed
good.
3 times during this movie, and that's the first time reviewing a movie for the recently deceased. I screamed. Not only did I scream, but 3 times.
Um, three times. Um, so what happens, right? She starts to see things. She starts to see this demon like creeping into her life in mirrors and in glass, and that's a tried and true trick for stuff for movies of this ilk, and also to keep the audience guessing: is this in her head?
Sure.
Is this only her experience? Um, she's like haunted. She's got dreams of the water and her mother, and the movie's trying to give us the story. Um, I think it's pretty easy to decipher that her mom drowned, and that she was there for it. But once again, when they reveal the full story, it's another turn. And I was like, oh my god, that was so good. So once again, like the writing, just like they did such an excellent job, with the culmination, with the climax. They just, I mean, getting there, like I said before we started recording, the first 20 minutes or so, I was guilty of staring at my phone and scrolling a bit, but once it got going, I mean, I definitely didn't look at my phone for the back 2/3. I was definitely immersed, which is what I like. As anybody who's ever watched
Yeah.
an episode of the show knows, I crave immersion, which is one of the reasons I like horror so much.
Mhm.
And I got it.
Yeah.
I definitely got there. It took a little bit, but I got there.
It's the pacing in this movie. I definitely could understand how some people are going to say the pacing was a little slow. For me, it's an investment, and I'm there for the ride. But it did keep me entertained throughout. I was actually, and this is the first, I was actually eating dinner at the beginning of the movie, and I was concerned, like, if I'm looking at the plate for like the microsecond that I need to nitpick something, and I'm going to miss it. After that dinner was finished, so I had a very similar experience where maybe for the first 10-15 minutes it didn't get my 100%, it got my 95, my 97%. But yeah, it's definitely an immersive film that is going to make sure, but that's what the movie's about. It starts off slow and innocuous, so the pacing of the movie matches the theme of the movie, and at the end you do not have a choice, which is something that that Vi will vocalize throughout the movie. I don't have a choice; I have to do it.
Yeah. So when I talk about the climax, I mean it's almost like the entirety of Act Three. It's not the end of Act Three. It's all of Act Three. It's 20 minutes of climax.
Mm.
When this movie flips the switch, which happens, yeah, right around the, I would say, if this movie was what, 90 minutes, was it 90
1 hour
minutes?
40 minutes.
1 hour 40 minutes, yeah, had to be right around the 1 hour 20 minute, 1 hour 15 minute mark. And for 20-25 minutes, it just keeps going.
Hmm.
So what happens is, she starts to unravel the mystery with her father. Her father, who was the addict, is now a monk.
Hmm.
She goes there to visit him to talk about the mom or to get
Hmm.
some answers, and they fight.
And
And
also
that
to look for a birth certificate.
she's like,
And
yeah,
I thought the birth certificate was kind of important because her director, whatever person that directs her shows, is on her to get this birth certificate because she can't get into China without it.
Right.
And, so a couple jokes about, cis males not needing a birth certificate, what have you. And then when she finds it, they set it up very, very nicely. That's one of the things that kept me interested early on throughout the movie. She goes to the dad's storage facility. She steals the key, goes to the storage facility, gets the birth certificate, and the cabinet above that one is locked. So now I'm asking, okay, so if the thing that we want, the birth certificate, is here, I want to know what's in the locked file cabinet, which we find out later when she goes back to the storage container for a second time.
Right. So they have a fight. She goes back. She's having trouble with the tour. The scratching is more intense. The husband finds out. Go to the doctor. I'm not going to go to the doctor. They fight. She's fighting with everybody now because she's in complete control. She's smoking behind everyone's back.
And eating her gummy worms.
Yeah, and eating her gummies. Yeah. And
after that very awkward encounter at the storage facility where she only wants to roll down the window a crack, and a superfan's daughter is there to thank her. My mom smoked for 30 years. She read your book. She quit smoking cold turkey. And after that, I was like, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Before we see that.
Yep. So she eventually has another meeting with her father where the father reveals that it's the demon that's attached to her. It was attached to him. He picked it up in the Vietnam War. His wife picked it up from him, and they passed it on to her. And she's like, and I'm so sorry. She was trying to save you. This is where she has like this vision of the father like strangling the mother underwater.
Yeah.
And she freaks out again. She freaks out. Why'd you kill her? Blah blah blah. And then the vision moves forward to where he's saying she was trying to save you from the demon, and there's only one way. And then the vision expands to the mother drowning her as a baby or as a child.
Yeah,
probably like 3 or 4, and the father actually saving Valerie. Yeah. And now her whole world crumbles in on itself at this revelation. And she gets a phone call from the PA, and she's on in 30 minutes. Her life has gotten so out of control that she's forgotten about the first date on her tour is in the city she lives in, and it's tonight.
And that's where the movie, that's when I checked in to see what the time was, because I was like, okay, the movie is about to go to that next, it's going to make that turn, it's going to go to that next level. And we actually see that daughter of the superfan. I'm pretty sure it's the same woman who was in the audience, who she pulls up. But before you get into that, Haas, I just want to say, when she initially reconvenes looking for the birth certificate with her dad has one thing hanging up in his Buddhist monk room, and it's this very creepy drawing of the demon, the Sanshi, the hungry ghost.
Yeah.
So if anybody's ever dealt with addiction, it's a persistent gossamer pain in your ass that just lingers and waits, just like the demon regenerated at the end. I thought that was a great anthropomorphization before we realized it was real.
Yeah.
I was like, that's fucking accurate.
Yeah.
But when we get to see the special effects, and they did use a real guy in a costume or whatever.
And I keep saying, why are you using bad CG when you can use practical effects and enhance it with just a little bit of CG, which is what they did here. And there are moments where there's no CG at all and it's just practical. And there was a moment or two where they had to use pretty much all CG. But even then, like, they had the monster made in practical effects and makeup, so they could still use that as the base for their computer graphics instead of generating the entire image. So everything just looked so much better.
Yeah. I think when it came to the Sanshi and making it a real thing that we see on screen, I think they followed a very similar design or plan that Stranger Things did, and it kind of looked like if the Demogorgon
Sure.
and Venom and Zool from Ghostbusters had a baby. Other than that, I thought it was great, but for me, that creepy drawing in the dad's room, that got me more than, and yes, it was practical effects. It wasn't ruined by CGI. And it was great to see it. But for me, that creepy drawing, just,
I did love the drawing too. It was like one of those calendar scrolls you see.
yeah,
Yeah, it was
like in a
it
Chinese
was,
restaurant. And she
yeah,
asks him about it. Why is that there? It's creepy.
yeah.
And that's just one of those moments when I was like, holy fuck, this actress is great. Because I like her when she's human, and I like her when she has a hat on, and I like her when she's vulnerable, and I can't stand her when she's made up. And maybe that's just my own prejudice against rich people. And I'm like, who the fuck is this actress that is just pulling all this off?
Oh,
So damn good. And that was one of the moments that made me sit back and, I didn't break the fourth wall, but it was noteworthy. So sorry to interrupt, but getting back to the
no,
turn where we're at her.
that's totally
Holy
fine.
shit, we're on in 30 minutes.
Holy shit, yeah, and this is it.
Motivational speech.
From here on out, the pace does slow down a little bit once or twice, but for the most part, from here on out, you are edge of your seat, glued to the screen. It is just all go.
It's on.
Yeah, so she brings someone up, and she has them look in a mirror, and she's doing her bit, and then it's the mirror, so Sanshi shows up and starts to fuck with her, and you can't see Sanshi, and she's getting like kind of pushed around the stage, and doing some like flips and then falling over, and you're like, okay, I mean, because you're still on the fence, is it a demon or is she crazy? And she just gets up and runs off, and this is where she goes and finds a spot to sit down, and she sits down and she goes to scratch, and they finally show us the hole that she's scratched in the back of her head.
So you're going to skip right to the hole.
Oh, it's right there. Isn't it right there in the scene? I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so
I mean, well, okay. So she does this first, and when it comes out, there's
no.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
you're fine. The only thing I want to mention is that there is some relationship stuff. Robbie has discovered the abandoned
Sure.
birth control pills at that point. Their relationship's on the rocks.
Yep.
He does work for her. She's like, you give the word and we'll call this off right now. She's recommitted to the relationship. There's all that stuff that's going on. And then, like I said, they skip from a 2 scratch
Yeah.
to the 8 and the 9, which you're about to talk about, and I'll let you do it.
Yeah.
Holy shit, did I scream out loud.
Yeah. So we finally see she pulls the hair apart, and we see this gaping.
Well, she's got some gray matter at the tip of her finger.
Yeah, she does. She's got some white on the tips of her fingers. Yeah.
And I'm like, how the hell does a woman have
yeah.
that color substance
Yeah.
at the end of her hair? What
And
the
then
fuck is she messing
she reaches
with?
back there, and we see it, so they've shown it to us. And she reaches back there, and I'm like, oh no, what is she gonna do? Is she gonna itch that thing? What are they gonna show us? No, she just sticks her fucking finger right into it as deep as it'll go, and her eyes fucking cross, and she just drops. And I'm like, oh.
So I got to talk about that because they show it in one other scene before that's nowhere near as tense, where at one point she just scratches the itch, and she is in heaven. She is just just the bliss washes over her, and she's enjoying it. And what I tried to explain to my cousin one time in a conversation is that what normal people don't understand is that yes, addicts love the getting high. They also morbidly love the bumps on the way down, the pain of the withdrawal, of coming down and hitting that. I think when she asks her father, are you through withdrawal? I think she knows exactly what she's asking him. She is not on a high horse whatsoever. But then when we see the extent to which the relentless nature of the Sanshi has her, where she has, sorry to sound reductive, a fucking hole in her head, and she's getting in there.
Yeah. To me, it is a lot. If you've ever been addicted to cigarettes, someone who doesn't smoke cigarettes will take a drag and cough and go, "That's disgusting," and
Yeah, it's god awful.
maybe they'll get a little dizzy. But when you are addicted to cigarettes, when you take that drag, that first drag of that first cigarette, every day,
Mm-hmm.
there is nothing like that feeling, that relief, that
Right.
that every nerve ending in your entire body was tense, and you just breathe it in, and they all relax.
One is too
It,
many, 1,000 is not enough,
yeah, it is.
is the term they use in AA.
Right, right there you go.
Yeah.
um,
Which can we talk about the grandmother for a second? When we see this life coach that's talking about good habits, and I am coincidentally, this movie came in the exact right time, reading Atomic Habits about making those small changes and doing consistent things. And she is, because I'm a seeker, and I've heard that language many times. So she does know all the good words, and then she's hanging out with her grandmother, who's smoking a cigarette while doing her nails.
right.
I'm like, and then, but that gives us one of the first peelbacks of those layers that you were talking about when her grandmother says, when you were a baby, I had to do your nails a certain way because you would bite it down to the cuticle to the point where you damaged your hands.
Right.
So her dad's not lying when she says, you know, whether she was born with it or not, we don't know, but he noticed that when she was a kid, that she's been,
That she had
down this path.
that Sanshi was already attached.
Yeah.
Yeah. He knew. He knew.
Yeah.
And yeah, we got a lot of close-ups actually of her fingernails.
And she looks at her dad's fingernails in one section, and they're dirty.
Yeah.
And you could it's so quick, and you could just see she is repulsed.
Yeah.
She is like, motherfucker. Can you not get some hand soap?
Yeah.
Can you just not dip your hands in water for like 2 minutes?
I mean, the attention to detail in this film was excellent. I can't say enough. Okay, so
So back to the mirror, and she is rigging out.
She crossed her eyes and
Yeah.
passed right out.
She's at the she's at that moment. See, I tried to block it out.
Yeah. So they're in the hospital because obviously that's where they're gonna go.
About fucking time.
we get the doctors explaining to the husband, Robbie,
Yeah.
because her father calls him Robin every time.
Yep. So, and I think at one point somebody calls him Robert when he's working on set with her.
Oh.
And just to clarify real quick, it's she's in it, and she's in her cup, her soup, whatever you want to call it. So she's using every machination and every tool and every deceptive weapon in her arsenal to not seek treatment. The doctor tells us over the phone, I can't just up your medication and give you a stronger level of cortisone. This might be something mental given your history.
Right.
And she is avoiding that like a fucking champion. And she's only at the hospital when she has to be at the hospital, when she cannot deflect anymore.
Right. So, she's been like paralyzed on the right side of her body. And
Yeah, she has a little bit of brain damage now.
Yeah, she's got some brain damage, and it's gonna be a hard road of rehab, and they go through the rehab, and at first it's like an aid right from the hospital, but then the next time she's in rehab or like in a physical setting, it's Robbie. So now she's like home in rehab. So we don't know how much time has passed, but we can assume a decent amount of time has passed.
Yeah, it's like a month. It has a feeling like at least a couple of months have passed. And one of the scenes that I just noticed where the aide with the hospital's with her, and Kelly Marie Tran falls forward and catches herself, and he catches it, and he says, "I got you." You compare that to two other actors, Robert Downey Jr. and Don Cheadle, when Don Cheadle is injured and going through physical therapy. Watch those two scenes and compare them. No knocking against Don Cheadle. He's obviously an amazing actor. RDJ is obviously an amazing actor. Kelly Marie Tran is way more believable in Control Freak than that specific scene in the movie that everybody saw.
Yeah, well, it was probably a Marvel movie, so.
I think it was it was Civil War.
Civil War, yeah.
Yeah, when Vision knocks War Machine out of the air, and he's paralyzed, which they did a great thing in Endgame. And feel free to clip this out and just put it on the BTS. But they make it great when he's with the redhead from that British sci-fi series that everybody loves. This is how my
Well,
mind works, guys. I apologize,
Karen
but
Gillan.
thank you, but I'm stuck with it,
Nebula.
and you guys can just
Nebula?
fast. Yes, so you guys can fast forward this, and I'm stuck with this for the rest of the podcast and the rest of my life after we stop. So they make a great thing where he's like, you know what, we do the best with what we got. But in the moment when he gets injured and he's going through physical therapy, and his best friend is there helping, Kelly Marie Tran did a better performance. That's my point. Haas, take this away from me. Keep it moving, please.
All right. Okay, so
Rescue me from me.
What I like that you brought up all of the tricks that addicts use to avoid taking responsibility for their actions, to avoid getting help, because they don't want help, because they love whatever they're addicted to. They love it. They don't want to stop doing it. That's the tragedy of addiction. So, we think everything's getting better, everything's going swell. They're even talking about kids again, or at least she's bringing it up. So you're like, oh, okay, hope.
Right.
But then, she makes him soup, and he eats it. And
the third date recipe
Yeah.
from Grandma's
Yeah.
recipe. And it was good.
He
Oh, I
eats it.
ate already. Go ahead. No,
Go
keep
ahead.
eating.
Keep eating. Yeah.
Keep eating.
He's only a few bites in, and then he notices, oh, this wasn't cool, and he falls off his chair, and he's
I
out.
think his exact words like, not fucking cool.
Not
I
fucking
think
cool.
that's
Yeah. That's a great line.
line.
So earlier she devised this contraption, as we were talking about, or you mentioned how she was good with power tools. She made this rope contraption on a pulley system, so she couldn't touch her head while she was asleep.
After duct taping oven mitts to her hands, and that
Right.
wasn't effective,
That was not effective.
she then, and I'm like, what the hell is she building? And she built some kind of weird kind of automated 50 Shades of Grey bullshit.
Yep.
Where she won't be able to scratch her head in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I'm
There's
like,
she even built a timer into it.
Which, by the way, I need 8 hours of sleep. She set her timer for 7. God bless her. But when she was still up at 4.5 hours, that's not going to make it go away.
No. So she uses a modified version of this contraption to basically chain her husband to the bed, so he can't bother her, and he kind of comes to, and she's like, I have something in my head, I have to get it out.
So here she's starting to face the problem to the point where she can describe it, admit it to her husband, possibly enroll or enlist him for help. Yes. So she is making progress at this point.
But also you're like, oh, she's lost it. She's going to go kill herself.
She's fucking gone.
Yeah, she's gone. So now we're like in the garage, and she's like trying to figure out a way to kill this thing, right? She's got a knife. She's standing in the center of like 5 mirrors.
5 mirrors. That's a cool scene.
Yeah, this is a cool sequence where it comes out, and she tries to cut it up, and it talks to her, and then I think she does stab it at this point when it comes out of the mirrors and it's standing behind her. And this is where she cuts an arm off, but then it regenerates.
I love that. So here, I just want to point out that she's at the bargaining stage. So, whatever that is before you hit acceptance,
Yep.
Where it's anger, denial, refusal, or whatever.
Denial, yeah.
And bargaining is I think the third stage. She's bargaining with it. She's like, okay, can we reasonably hash this out? Because if I die, you die with me.
Yeah. What do you want?
What do you want? And that's the nature of addiction, is that it's not a parasite, and it's not a virus that will mutate to become weaker because it wants to live. It doesn't give a shit. And It says it about maybe 15 minutes after this, whereas I want every part of you.
I want every part, yeah. I want all
but
of
you're
you.
You're about to get to that.
And he's very, he's patient. And I think she realizes that. So she devises another plan. And now I'm torn on this. I think I want to take the second explanation that I'm about to give. So about this plan, we'll go through the plan in a minute. But the two takes in my mind are, she did this plan, and then the demon showed up, and she saw an opportunity and took it, or or she started with the plan knowing that the demon would show up, and that was part of the plan all along.
I
Okay.
would I would wish and hope it was the second, but I honestly believe it's the first.
Right, and that's unfortunately where my heart lies as well.
Yeah.
So now we're into the garage instead of the room with the five mirrors,
Mm.
and she's moving on to Plan B, or who knows, maybe this is just desperation. She like she makes a red line above her wrist on her forearm. She gets out the it's like a circular saw, but it comes down from the top. I don't know if that has a different name. I mean,
Yeah, me
obviously,
neither.
circular saw obviously is
But
like
there is
handheld usually,
a
but
version of her motivational speaking self talking to her from her laptop
right.
that is giving her directions that are highly disturbing.
Yep.
Um,
And then the voice is modulated to kind of sound like Sanshi as well.
sure, sure.
Um,
Yeah, it's not her
it's not.
advising her to
Yeah.
kill herself.
Yeah.
It's it's her inner demons advising her to do it. You're like, oh, this is the easiest way, and so she goes about it, and she's like, you know what? I have a solution. If I have no hands, I can't scratch the fucking.
I can't scratch the itch, and then that's like desperation to me, right?
Hmm.
If I have no hands, I can't scratch the itch. That's like an addict who like can't figure out the right way to quit.
Hmm.
You know, he's like, well, this is my act of desperation to separate myself from this thing.
Alcoholics, I don't know what it is, but there's some kind of medication that an alcoholic would take, so that if he or she imbibes alcohol, it makes them fervently sick.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's where she's at right now. Right now I need anything. I cannot. She's at that point. She cannot stop,
She can't keep scratching, so she's
and
got to
she can't.
figure
Right,
it. Yeah, she's got to figure it
right.
out. So she cuts off her first hand, and she sets up this other like flat iron thing, and that's like super hot somehow, and she just like
To cauterize it,
she cauterizes her wound, and then
her stump.
her stump.
And I wanted to Google how long does it take to reattach a hand. Like at that point, I'm still hopeful. And then in the next scene, and she only has her left hand, and she's asking Robbie to help her. Kids, if you're gonna cut off a hand, just in case you don't go through with it, in case the demon whispers some logic in your head, like "Hello, you don't fucking need hands to bump your head up against a sharp object."
Yeah.
Cut off your non-dominant hand first.
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
So the demon is there. The demon comes after she cuts the hand off, which was spectacular, by the way. Once again, all
She keeps going
practical.
back and forth whether or not she's going to do it or not.
Oh yeah. The acting. The acting. Yeah. Like besides the gore, which was all practical and excellent.
Oh my god.
She throws it in the garbage can too, and they did it where the camera's at the bottom of the garbage, so the hand like falls on it.
That's one of those. That's one of those moments where she's still got OCD. She's got to clean up the mess.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Leave the hand where it is.
So then we get the demon, and he's like, hey, what did you think this would work? It's like, you don't need hands to die. Like you bump,
One piece at a time.
One piece at a time. I'm going to take
Yeah,
all
you
of
can
you.
bump your head against a sharp corner. If you're paralyzed, you can bite your tongue off so you drown in your own
Right.
blood.
Yep. Yep.
I will take. You don't know. There
Yeah.
is no pass and go.
Yeah.
There is no collecting $200. This is it.
She says no escape is her line after the demon finishes convincing her that it's hopeless, or at least as far as we think. So now is the second half of this plan how she wanted to do it, or is this the opportunity she saw? I hope this was the plan all along, but once again, this is probably just her lucidity taking an opportunity as it's handed to her. She sets it up to cut off the right hand, and she like weakly gets on the machine, and she says to the demon, "Can you help me with this?" And once again, as the viewer, you don't know if this demon is real. Like this demon, this is could still be this giant metaphor / hallucination as part of her illness. So the demon is is setting everything up with his awesome practical effect suit that this guy is in, and it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
And she tricks him. She pulls him in the way, and
And brings it down.
Cuts the arm off.
I howled. So the three times that that I literally screamed, her putting her finger in the hole being the loudest, I howled with such a great feeling of not victory, not yet, but defiance, willpower. Not willpower makes it sound like weak, more like will, the will to live, and just a defiant fuck you. You know what? If she's going to go out, if she is done, she's going to take a piece of it down with her. Oh, what a great fucking scene!
Yeah, yeah, and this is where she does think that she killed it, and it's not the mirror scene. The mirror scene is what I think takes all the hope out of her, and kind of is how she comes up with the idea to cut her hands off, is because of the mirror scene. So anyway, this is where she kills the demon, and we're like, yes.
Well, she cripples it. That's for sure. She
Oh,
pulls
she
his
definitely
arm
hurt.
through.
Yep.
And
Cuts
so
the
now,
arm off. Yep.
so now the demon can't guide her, which it has done in 2 or 3 scenes before, where Robbie accuses her of, really, you got scissors and broke yourself out, and she's scratching, after the brain damage, after the hole, and he doesn't believe that the Sanshi is a thing,
Yep.
and so she's trying to convince him of that, but yeah, the demon did move her hands before. So now there's a victory that, you know what, fuck you. I may have taken my own hand, but guess what? I took yours too.
So before we get into not quite the finale, but we do have to mention that her obsession with her mother's death and the memory that she can't put together is kind of a, not even a B plot, but like a C plot, where every once in a while, to relax, she swims and holds her breath underwater and times it. And the last time she does it on screen, I believe it's 4 minutes and 10 seconds is on the timer.
Yeah.
So she's like an Olympic level.
That's a long time.
Right? Yeah, but like the record is like 7 minutes or something. So she's
Navy divers have to go for 4 minutes. The best ones can go for 5 minutes. So 4 minutes and 10 seconds is phenomenal.
So now she's escaping the newly regenerated demon and dragging herself towards the pool. And now, once again, as the viewer, you don't know. You're like, is she just going to dump herself in the pool and die? Like, is that what we've come to? Is it fully over because the demon regenerated once again? And this also helps the it's all in her head story angle because of the regeneration. Because if it was real, like, maybe she could have killed it.
Right. Well, Haas, let me ask you a question about the pool before we get to the ending of the Sanshi in the pool with her. Is she doing that because it gets rid of the itch? And does it get rid of the itch because of the physicality of it? She's underwater, or is that a place where she's at peace and therefore her stress isn't triggering her to feel the itch? What's the deal with her in the pool?
There's a lot of reasons she would be going to the pool. Once again, if we want to say that the hand cutting was to lure him in, so she could kill him, maybe she's luring him to the water where she believes she has an advantage. I cut this thing's hand off. I'm covered in its blood, even though its blood was black, right? I'm covered in it. So there's physical evidence, and she believes that this is happening. So, and it regenerated from that. Well, can it regenerate from drowning? So maybe she's luring it into another trap. Maybe she's just going to where she's comfortable, where she feels at peace. Maybe she is going there to die. So
is she luring it into a trap, or is she just fighting for dear life?
I don't know. There's a lot I mean, I think it's probably more coincidental in the terms of the character. Obviously it's a script, so it's on purpose. But I think.
I mean, it's a beautiful home. The pool is there, and I think it happens to be convenient.
Yeah, so maybe she even thinks she could escape it by going into the water. Maybe it won't follow her.
Sure.
There's lots of reasons why she could be just like dragging herself to the pool.
Yeah, but I definitely don't think that this is like a mousetrap, machination of got you to the pool.
You got to the pool.
Where, we're gonna open up the what was that trap that the Ghostbusters had? Remember that they would step on it, it would open up, and the ghost would get sucked in.
Pretty sure it's just called a trap. The ghost trap.
Well,
yep.
Great one, Steve. Yeah. So, the pool is not the Ghostbusters trap.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so she gets in there, and we get she's in there for a little while, and we see an image of her father when her father was healthy. Oh, I forgot to mention that he's dead. Oh man, we glazed right off of that one.
She did go back to him.
Yeah.
To what could have been or would have been a reconciliation.
Right.
And she now realizes that he is literally using, because she does find drugs in his dresser the first time the creepy image on the wall visit.
Yep.
Before the storage locker. Now she's going back to him and realizing, okay, I'm going to own up to my own shit. I realize how I'm doing the things that I'm doing to get by. Now I see how you are using to get by because you're suffering from the same demon I am. And they don't get to have that conversation.
Right. And, there's an insect theme that follows this demon. Mm-hmm. And, so he's got these ants all around his, like,
I mean, if you have obsessive-compulsive disorder and you need everything to be neat and tidy, when you have ants in your house, it's because you're a fucking slob.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
All right, flashback forward to the pool. She gets an image of her father all nice and clean and in his monk onesie. And she gets to kind of, spiritually say goodbye. And then that image fades into her mother, who once again, we've seen all these different versions of the mother, and except this version is at peace.
Guys, in the comments, let us know if you prefer monk robe or monk onesie. Sorry.
It is one piece of cloth. Anyway.
I mean, just like the uniforms in Star Trek were onesies, they never referred to them as a onesie.
Yeah, that's true.
There's something slightly infantilizing about the term onesie.
So I think the little girl version of her shows up first, or the monster. I'm not sure what order it comes in, but the Sanshi does show up and starts to, strangle her, but then she strangles it back, mm-hmm. and she strangles it even harder, and it tries to get away from her. It's like, oh fuck, I pretty much thought she was just going to die down here and mm-hmm. didn't know she had any life left in her. And she strangles that thing out and ends up cradling it, and we realize that this thing isn't quite pulling her out of the water, because they do kind of get tangled, and mm-hmm. she's trying to go up, and she just doesn't seem like she's getting anywhere, because they did do the underwater in CG, because mm-hmm. I'm sure it's really dangerous to do to film, especially at this length. And of course, they make the pool seem like infinitely deep at times, which is also a nice effect. Mm-hmm. But her husband got loose from his makeshift prison and pulls her.
I want to make sure that I don't forget to mention it. There was this movie does not follow your usual format where there's like comedic scenes for the sake of being comedic. There is one funny line where he says, "I'm going to go sleep on the couch. You can go ahead and go to sleep in the crime scene." I laughed out loud at that point. I thought that was very, very good. And if you notice another funny moment, but it being the only one that I noticed, had me laughing a little harder than I probably should have. So I thought that was great. And what an ingenious little fucker. That's something that they have in common, where she can build things and create things. He figures out, to get the photo and smash it and get a shard of glass.
Yep.
To free himself. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he jumps right in the water. He pulls her right out, and cradled in her arms, is this little, like, baby-sized naked demon, like black and covering pale white,
Yeah.
and he looks terrified.
Yeah.
Cause she's like, this is old news. I've been dealing with this thing forever, and he's like, shocked, terrified, speechless. What is that thing?
She has a name for it where she calls it Basic Val. Where what would Basic Val want? Basic Val would want a cigarette and gummy worms and junk food. And she busts his balls about drinking. He mentioned he hasn't had a drink in 6 months. And why are you eating like Lay's potato chips? Because I like eating shit, he says.
Yeah.
So she has that element of control, that's obsessive throughout their relationship. How should you take over? I forgot what I was going to say.
That's all right. It happens.
I brain farted.
It's okay. It happens.
brain
We're over the hour mark. It's like, at this point, anything goes.
We're getting woozy.
And she says, what does she say? What does she call it?
So, thank you.
I remember being like, oh, that's cool.
Doesn't she refer to it as "that's me"? Doesn't she pull like, and that's the point that every empowering video and even this movie, because she is a motivational speaker, will say that you can't find answers on the outside. You have to find the answers from within. So she's been referring to this and dealing with this and even naming this Basic Val.
Right.
And so Basic Val, started when she was a child, dealing with her father being an addict and her mother being depressed.
Sure.
If you want to put it in strictly psychological terms and take the supernatural element out of it, or, and say that the Sanshi was, the ghostly language that they used, before Freud came along with psychology. So she's pulling. Doesn't she say, "Oh, that's me"? Doesn't she pull up like the childhood version of her up out of the pool?
She does, but when it gets there, it's like the demon. But
it's amorphous and black
but yeah, when they were going up, it was the child version of her.
Mm-hmm.
But when they got up, it was the baby demon, and then it like decays and melts into the water, and the camera zooms up, and we see this black like shadow ink go away towards the other side of the pool, and then get smaller and then disappear.
And Robbie sees it, and so in other movies that operate this way, where one person is operating under a delusion, Beautiful Mind, Fight Club, what have you, and they either blend it in so well so that the other characters aren't a thing, or now these days movies just keep it trucking. That's not what's happening here.
No.
Robbie is not being explained away in the delusion. It's the demon is real, and Robbie's seeing it.
Yeah. So this family was actually possessed by this demon, and the demon manifested itself in the metaphor. So yeah, it is real, because it is real. Addiction is real. You do fight.
Addiction is real.
You do fight these inner demons, and just because they didn't make it all in her head doesn't make it less real or less powerful or less impactful that she defeats her demon. Her demon. This demon. Killed her mother, killed her father, and she defeated it. Now, if you do self-help stuff, that this is a recurring theme in self-help, where the demons of the parents are always passed down to the children, and the children have an opportunity to defeat them. My father smoked his whole life. My mother smoked. My grandmother smoked. I smoked till I was 23, and what am I now? 19 years without a cigarette. I mean,
congratulations, by the way. That's awesome.
Thank you. So I defeated that demon
by breaking the cycle.
Yeah, by breaking the cycle.
And that's the goal. And what I would say is that if it is a metaphor, that's not a tragic thing either when Robbie sees the demon, because then you could explain it in the context of it being a metaphor that Robbie's love for her, not to say a trope that love cures all, but he does love her, even though he was wounded by her. He's willing to fight for their relationship, willing to rescue her, and if at that point, if it is a metaphor, his love for her enables him to see it.
Right.
What she's been saying, because she said it to him at least 2 times before, maybe 3 times,
And
where she's
he
like,
never
there's something
saw it.
inside
Yeah.
me, I got to get rid of it. She doesn't come out and say, my Buddhist addicted dad introduced me to the Sanshi, this hungry ghost Vietnamese demon, by the way.
Right. That's true.
But she uses very real language that people would use in that situation. There's something in me, I'm not lying, which I thought was a great line, because she acknowledges all the times in the previous 1 hour of the movie where she had lied.
Yeah.
And just operated like one smooth, cold operating bitch.
The movie was great.
It was great.
Especially once again the performance of Kelly Marie Tran. And you watch this movie, she hits every fucking note. You've got happy, sad, elated, angry, rageful, fucking sexy, fucking love-making scene. You've got every aspect of humanity this character goes through in this film. Like, when I say magnificent performance, I mean, I can't describe it well enough.
I think you did an excellent job. Absolute range of an actor of what they can do, she does do. Like I said, the only comedic element happened by who played Robbie?
Looks like Miles Robbins.
By Miles Robbins, but what Kelly Marie Tran does show here in absence of comedy is humanity, vulnerability, and the complete opposite, inhumanity, invulnerability. She shows the complete range of every single emotion and just does an absolutely powerful job doing it. It's a really, truly magnificent performance. I don't want to sound hyperbolic, because then you're like, oh, that can't be. Watch the movie. You'll see it.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in Miles Robbins, if you like him in the film, which he was great. He did Y2K. He had a bit part character called Nugs that was hilarious. But his real tour de force is as the lead character in Daniel Isn't Real, where he plays a kid who had an imaginary friend, and the imaginary friend comes back as an adult and takes over his body, and all this other crazy stuff happens. And it is a horror movie, unfortunately from 2019, so you'll never get to see us do it. But the imaginary friend is played by, I gotta find his first name, Patrick Schwarzenegger, who also puts in an amazing performance in this movie.
Does Patrick Schwarzenegger have any relation to Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yes, it's his son.
Go figure.
And this is a great movie from like 6 years ago now, so definitely check it out. Psychological thriller horror.
Before we say goodbye to Control Freak, there is a moment when she, after she gets rid of the birth control plan, and she does rape him. She rapes her boyfriend, which we kind of forgive because he's wanted kids forever and she's been using birth control. So we kind of let that slide, and that's okay. After Robbie sees the demon, there's a moment where she says, she needs his help because she can only use her left hand. And for him to open up an envelope, I thought she wrote him a letter or something. And she said, I might be insane to ask you this, but I want you to do this with me. And it's a picture of the sonogram of their unborn child.
Right, and that's the after the demon is dead scene. The what do they call it? The
epilogue?
Aftermath? Yeah, I think they call it the aftermath. You could call it an epilogue. Yeah, I think they do call it an aftermath, but it comes after the climax, and it's just kind of like a wrap up where you get to see if everybody does live happily ever after or not.
And for the most part, they are. I have a terrible habit of whenever somebody has a baby, if the baby's ugly, I let them know. Oh, you have such a beautiful baby. No, you fucking don't.
That is one ugly baby.
With any luck, that thing will mature into looking something different and hopefully more human. This is not a very ugly baby, but it does have an ant sliding across its face at the very end of the film. And it's not a creepy, cheesy horror trope thing. It's very, this movie, that blurb honestly will piss you off if you like intelligent horror movies, This movie was more than intelligently done, and that ant across the baby's face was intelligently done too.
Yeah.
It's not Freddy's claw coming up at the end of the movie,
right?
to say a sequel's coming.
Yeah, it's very very good elevated horror. Loved it, so good. Once again, I gave it a 7.
I gave it an 8.
And for the podcast for the recently deceased, it is hard to say, and I do have to say it all the time. But
for the podcast for the recently deceased, or for the podcast for the recently deceased?
For the podcast for the recently deceased.
For the recently deceased.
I'm Nate Roberts.
I'm Stephen Anthony.
And thanks for watching. And
check out BasementMedia.Online and DarkClawStudios.com.
I hate the plug. Like, comment,
Love the
subscribe.
Plug. Yes. Plug, subscribe. Wait.
And we'll see you next time.
Later, guys.